Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, and thanks for joining us on Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. And we begin with the art of the deal. In this case, no deal. Donald Trump calls himself a master negotiator, but where's the skills? We've seen nothing. So he gets to the negotiating table, 145% tariffs drop down to 30%. Sounds like a win, right? Nope. He gets nothing for Americans. We're still hit with a regressive tax. It's still 30% on goods that are coming in from China. And China didn't blink. China didn't flinch. China says, whatever. And that's where we begin today. My partner in crime, Brock Ganeles, joins us now with a look at this mess. And Brock, we still haven't answered the all-important question, why? Why did we need a tariff? Why did we need to break an economy that was humming along? As I always say, it was the envy of the world up until January 20th.
So that every country would have to come to the U.S. and come to Trump with some sort of deal for him, right? Side deal, basically. Side deal for him so that he could enrich himself, because he thought that he was the American people had handed him the power to do a shakedown, an international shakedown around the world. China didn't blink. Other countries will have to, will negotiate some sort of new arrangement with the U.S. The messaging, right, the hype, the PR or BS was it was going to bring back manufacturing to the U.S., but what company is changing their business decisions and their business processes when there's such an erratic nature of the policy making at the top? And if we've gone from 140 to 30 in the tariffs with China, is that enough for companies to switch and build whole new facilities here and change the whole economic model of their business? I mean, highly unlikely. So much ado about nothing, but it'll get blustered. It'll get played as if it was a big victory. So it's the classic Trump, start a fire, partially put it out, and declare victory and talk about, that he saved half the house, even though the other half was now burnt down, and say that you're better off with half a house.
You're right. Because that's what he's telling us. We're better off without $30. Who buys $30 at Christmas? I don't care how much money you got or don't got. Nobody's buying $30 for their kid. They buy $2. Maybe you buy $3, right? But it doesn't matter because he's trying to tell you what's good for you. In what reality did he think that was going to work? Because I don't need Donald Trump, of all people, who doesn't even know what that thing is called that you push kids around in. He doesn't even know what that is. So how are you telling me how many dolls I need or don't need and what I should be spending my money on? I mean, this guy is so off base, tone deaf, demented, and just detached from reality. I mean, he's got no clue how everyday Americans live.
And 30% is meaningful. I mean, that's going to hit the price of a lot of products. So, and as we, have talked about, like, either the companies are going to take the economic hit, highly unlikely, or they're going to pass it along, highly probable, right? They're not going to sit there and say, oh, we're just going to be less profitable. No, they're going to figure out how to pass it along to the customers, right? And therefore, like you said, it's a regressive tax. It's a tax on spending.
Right.
It's a tax on spenders.
I read not too long ago that the average car note was like $600 or $700. All right. Let's say we're not luxury car drivers. We've got a $600 car note, right? You add another 30% on top of, what's that, another $200?
Yeah, it's like $200.
You got an $800 car note, right? That's mortgages in some place, or used to be. Can't find affordable housing anymore. That's another show. Sure. But geez, you're going to add $200 to something most people need. If you live in a city like Atlanta, like we do, we don't have the greatest public transportation system, so you almost have to have a car. And if you're looking for housing, you've got to move further and further away from the city, so you got to have a car, right? So now you bought this house, right? Now you need a new car. Your car note's going up, the price of and that's the price of everything is going up. And that's the frustrations Americans are talking about.
Yeah, and I get frustrated on the language people use when talking about the prices going up. You know, when you drive cross country like I just did, I'm back home
Right.
from
Right.
Santa Fe, and you listen to a lot of NPR along the way, like I had done, and and I just get frustrated at the language people use because there was a segment today about like a cooking segment, and one of the women was on there who was a host of the show, like, oh, the price. If you have a couple kids like me who like eggs, prices are going up. And then she said something like, well, we hear a lot about how prices are coming down, but that's just not the lived reality that we have. And I'm like, what do you mean we hear a lot about prices coming down? From one person,
Right.
it talks about prices coming down, and he's
Right.
lying to you. So they avoided saying Trump's name, and they just didn't call out the gaslighting and the bullshit. They pretended like, oh, a lot of people are talking about prices coming down, but they're actually not. But that's not the case. This is just the American lie Trump is delivering to the American people. Prices are going up. He's saying they're going down. He's telling the American people these tariffs are good for them. They're seeing prices going up, but there's still such a reticence. And I get it. NPR wants their funding and they're worried about getting abolished. They don't want to inflame Trump, but like you can't do media that way, and you can't talk about things and not just call them for what they are. Trump's lying. Prices are still going up. They haven't come down. Every consumer knows it. Plain and simple.
Right. Right. And that's the problem with mainstream media today, right? They're too afraid not to be able to make the money they've been making, right? But they're not making the money they were making in the 80s or even the 2000s, right? Because people have so many other choices. You don't even need news, traffic, and weather anymore because you can get it on your phone on your way to work. People aren't watching local news like they used to because they've got too many other choices. Nobody's home at 5:30 anymore. So why can't you tell us the truth? I don't understand.
And
Why not be the one that differentiates yourself from everybody else?
Think about how the tariffs are being covered just today already. No one's just saying this is a policy fiasco, right? They're talking about the markets are up today. I heard the Dow is up like 1,000 points. This is that. Well, it's like no shit. The markets are up today because the absolute lunacy and idiocy of 130% tariffs with China has now been changed to 30%. So now it's just a lousy policy, not a absurdly damaging policy, right? So, okay, yeah, so the market's going to recover a little bit, but it's still a horrendous policy that was strategically made no sense, has no positive outcome, and we're just being fed bullshit along the way, and it just needs to be talked about and reported that way so it can make its way through the consciousness of the American people, some of whom maybe are sitting there going, wow, what a great deal they cut today. They, almost like we shook down the Chinese to get it down from 130 to 30, like it was some victory that went on in the negotiating table.
Right. And it's disgusting that, people are literally selling their soul for $1 everywhere you look, right? All these sycophants of Trump, they're in it. They're all in it for themselves.
Really frustrating to watch, and Dems got to get better at the harder message and pointing out the absurdity. Now, something that I feel that I'm getting the early sense that is not going over very well, and maybe you can explain to me even what the fuck it is what is going on with this airplane that's being gifted by what country is it? Is it Oman, Qatar, United Arab Emirates? It's Qatar.
The Qatari government.
Okay, so they're gonna, when Trump goes to the Middle East this week, they're gonna walk him out to the tarmac and hand him the keys to a new airplane? What's the story?
And it's a $400 million plane, right? First of all, if you're into those documentaries like I am, I've seen the documentaries on Air Force One. I know about all the different tools, basic tools that it has, rocket launch, all the things that it has to be able to protect the chief executive.
Security features, right?
It's security features, right? Plus, there's 2 of them. Most people don't know that. There's always 2 of them in whatever location he goes to. And I think the first one gets there before he does. So they make sure that one is under lock and key, under security, right? You just can't go take an air. We don't know what kind of security features are in this thing. We don't know what they put in it. What does the military have to say about this? The people in charge of protecting this clown, right? How much harder is he making their jobs now that he wants to take a Qatari airliner and start flying around the world in it?
Who built this plane?
It's a good question. I haven't seen any of that in the
Not
story.
Boeing, not Boeing, right?
Not Boeing.
Not an American manufacturer, right? So Trump's decided that Air Force One, built by Boeing, basically sucks, right? He's been bitching about it. So
Right.
the U.S. manufactured Air Force One
Right.
sucks.
Right.
While the tariff talk is going on, it's all about things need to be built in America.
Right.
Boeing, is going to be replaced by the Qatari government plane that was built by I don't know who else would have built it if it was
Right. The Qatari government, the official Qatari airline supplier, whoever that is. And think about it though, Brock.
maybe Airbus or Embraer. It's probably a European manufacturer, right?
But remember, Brock, they do things to excess over there because they got nothing but money, right? They can just throw money at
Yeah,
stuff.
they build islands, they build the tallest buildings, right?
Indoor ski slopes, all that crap, right? Listen, remember how they dogged your boy Obama about the gifts he'd received and whether or not he was going to pay the taxes on it. So now, my understanding is Trump hasn't paid the fines that he's got in New York. How's he going to pay the taxes on a $400 million jet?
This story boggles my mind. I don't see how this would even go over well in MAGA world, right? This is just Trump as a psychopath, lunatic, moron, infantile, greedy, just saying he needs something that's his. It's going to go to his presidential library when he's done. He needs a fancier plane. He's basically trashing American manufacturing along the way and just deciding that he needs something glitzy. All the while, how tone deaf, all the while the big debate going on in Washington is how do we cut Medicaid without it look like we're really cutting Medicaid? But we have to cut it. How are we going to finesse these cuts and these people dying and not getting health care so we can get our tax cuts for the wealthy? All the while that's going on, Trump's flying in the Middle East, not doing official business either. He's not like trying to negotiate peace and Trump's arguing why he should be getting this huge gift for himself personally. Yeah, it's just amazing the disdain they have for the MAGA followers because they just think that they will eat any plate of bullshit that they serve them. Like, if Trump thinks he can serve them anything.
Give them a big enough spoon and they'll scoop it up. But remember Richard Painter, who on Trump 1.0 was the emoluments expert and talked about all the emoluments issue. Well, the Constitution has a foreign emoluments clause that forbids public office holders from accepting a present of any kind, whatever, from any king, prince, or foreign state. So again, here we go, abusing the Constitution. Mr. President, do you have to uphold the Constitution? I don't know. I have brilliant lawyers. Fake news. Fake news. I need this jet, right? Because my jet's a piece of shit. He's not going to come out and say that, right? But from all accounts, his jet is a piece of trash, right? I know Air Force One is much nicer than that garbage he's flying on. I'm surprised that thing's still up in the air. I mean, it's anything he can do to enrich himself. He doesn't give a shit about America or American people or especially MAGA people. He would never break bread with the true MAGA loyalists, that 20%, right? At the bottom of the rung of the bottom rung of the ladder. He's not breaking bread with them. He's not even shaking their hands.
This is like the Project 2025 guys. They're like spinning plates and trying to keep them in the air, right? Because on the one side, they're trying to implement all this doji shit and make all these cuts and create a white supremacy, society here, right? And really jam it down America's throats and just raw power of like, look, we got the government, we got all the levers. We're threatening every congressman that if they don't play along with everything we say, then they're going to get primaried or they're going to get threatened with their lives like Murkowski was worried about, right?
Yep.
And at the same time, they have this absolute fucking psychopathic lunatic that's the head of the movement that's running around wanting to get gifts from Middle Eastern governments, right? And just doing selfish, crazy shit because he's
but Brock,
He's a lunatic, and that's who they have as the leader of their movement. So they're trying, they're sitting in a room going, "What the fuck is he doing with the plane? We're trying to get white supremacy in here. We're trying to cut Medicaid and other entitlements, and we're trying to get that big tax cut for all the wealthy who are all then going to donate to us and prop up our entire movement." And
right.
he's like, we got to work around this idiot because he just is so selfish that he's stealing this shit. Plus, the other story that people are getting tired of is the whole Bitcoin, meme coin,
Oh yeah.
scam that's going on where Trump's taking money from people and they're all losing money and it's going into Trump's coffer. So every day Trump's so greedy, he's taking shit. And the Project 2025 guys are trying to get shit for their donors and they're trying to keep these two things alive at the same time and keep the American people, aka MAGA, on board all the way through, which is why you get the ICE raids and all the racism, because they got to do all that smokescreen shit so that the MAGA people don't focus on where the money's going.
Yep, wagging the dog. But Brock, let's go back to Trump 1.0. We know they got paid for Khashoggi, right? We saw Jared take billions for his so-called investment fund. What was it? An investment fund? Some investment firm they started. Your boy Mnuchin, or what was his name? Steve Mnuchin?
Mnuchin.
Yeah, Steve Mnuchin, took a couple billion, right? So Trump's like, where's his? Jared wouldn't break him off, right? Mnuchin wasn't giving up anything. So he figures, hey, let me get started early on compiling my riches, right? Because I'm the one that's due the rich. I do all the work around here. Let me get paid. He didn't have to answer to Khashoggi. He hasn't had to answer to any kind of ethics investigations. 1.0, now 2.0. And he's like, I'm just throwing it in their face. I don't give a shit, right? I don't care what you think. I don't care. Look, the people who investigate me are the people I hired, right? That ain't happening. So he's just run amok and he's doing whatever he wants. At what point does the lawlessness start to impact all of us Americans? Like, at what point, does Elon Musk?
We've seen it in the stock. The stock market's been the first indicator of it. Certainly people have lost their rights. People have lost their health care. People have been thrown in the back of vans and deported, but, right? But look, Trump's policies all just play to who's paying him, right? Oil guys are throwing money because he became the GOP. So the GOP money really just became his money, right? He just combined the two. There is no GOP money now that doesn't flow through him, right? That started back with Romney, McDaniel, Romney, right? So that started, then Laura Trump took over the GOP. So that money's just flowing to him. So look, oil guys want more drilling. They just, they funnel money to Trump one way or another, right?
Yep.
Foreign governments want policies a certain way. They funnel money directly to Trump. So now he's just created all these mechanisms for more money to go directly to him. But all U.S. policy ultimately is being dictated by who's paying Trump.
Right.
Why is he a tax cut for the wealthiest matter, right?
Exactly.
Because
trickle-down economics has never worked.
Yeah.
We know it doesn't work. Stop pissing on us and telling us it's raining. It doesn't work. All right. Hey, before we go, I wanted to talk to you about this too. The Sean Diddy Combs trial started today, right? It's a federal trial, so we got no cameras. Okay. I was at Howard with Diddy, right? Love Bad Boy, love the music. I was a big fan of Biggie. Nonetheless, why can't we have cameras in the courtroom?
I don't know. Why?
Proceedings. It makes absolutely no sense.
Of course we could, right?
Yeah,
we have
exactly.
Anything else, a local court. We have TV shows about court cases.
Exactly. Right? Court TV has made a living off of covering court cases.
I don't know. The Trump trial, the Trump trial, no, you still got those sketches and then everyone analyzes whether the sketch is accurate. Absolutely no reason in this age, just another in this age of where people want transparency and necessarily don't always believe the sources that are delivering news to them. They want to see it firsthand. There's absolutely no reason why there's not cameras in federal court.
Right. Well, we saw Donald Trump in state court get convicted of 34 felony counts, right? Why can't we see? Let's say I'm a puffy, P. Diddy super fan, right? I want to know what the evidence was against him. If you're going to put him away for life, I don't want to have to try and read some convoluted New York Times article, tonight at 8:30 when they finally publish the article and not know what's happening in federal court. It is some of the most important proceedings. I mean, we get audio from the Supreme Court. You mean to tell me we can't get audio and video from federal court? The officers down there in Memphis, they just got off on a state trial, right? Like, what's going to happen with the federal proceedings? Can we not see that? I mean, they brutally ripped the man apart.
With you, Mark, I don't understand it. Why would the justice system operate in the dark? I mean, I know that there's a transcript and this and that, but we know no one's reading that whole transcript, right?
Nobody wants to read that.
A picture's worth 1,000 words. I can't give you a good argument on that one, or a good explanation on that one. What I want to hit you back with before we go is in talking about all the economic distress that Trump has just put on the United States and all the greed that oozes and corruption that oozes out of the administration, that I'm still shocked the American people haven't hit a breaking point on. Just allowing Donald Trump to just, in essence, take money in broad daylight. Right? There's transparent, or take it in the back room through his Bitcoin.
Right.
Just as a reminder that everything is racial. Today, the United States is accepting in refugees from South Africa, white refugees, because they're under the, quote, risk of genocide in South Africa, and they need to be protected. And America is the country that is welcoming to people internationally genocide who are under threat and at risk. So we welcomed to Dulles Airport today the first of the white refugees from South Africa. At the same time, ICE is running around with the masks on, right? and no identification, and rounding up brown people and sending them to nobody knows where, through what mechanism, to what country, on what charge. But no, the white Afrikaners welcomed today because we're the land of compassion for people that are under threat in their home country.
Right. Unless you're brown, right? You can't be under threat if you're brown because you are the threat. Right? So you can't, why are you running from the threat? You're brown. Turn around and start killing people too. Yeah, I mean, it is so hypocritical, right? But this is what happens when you purchase an election for someone, right? If you're a rich enough South African,
Elon Musk. Musk's like,
yeah.
Musk's the advocate for these people. His whole family that feels screwed about what went on in South Africa.
Yeah.
He's behind this, and he's like, look at how much money. Do you want more of my money, Donald, or not? You want more of my money? I expect a payback on my investment.
And let me tell you something. I was in South Africa, Cape Town, 2 years ago. First of all, there was no genocide going on. I wouldn't have gone, right? There was no active conflict taking place. I had some beautiful meals and some great restaurants, went on some great tours, and I learned more about apartheid than you can shake a stick at. And let me tell you something, it was a brutal, like when you talk about slavery, apartheid should be in the same breath because it's modern day slavery. So if you got a business, if you were handed a business when apartheid went away, right? Who are you going to do business with, Brock? You don't know any white people, right? Plus the white folks not going to buy from you. So you're going to end up having this product that you're making with nobody to buy it and end up having to what? Sell the business or get it taken away from you via tax. Brock, they had no plan for Black South Africans to assume their place in the economic hierarchy. So you have people there that are living in huts, in shanty towns with DirecTV satellite dishes on top. There's a porta potty for the neighborhood, right? You got satellite dishes, people with the terrain as the floor. I mean, it is maddening what you see. And I'll have to send you some of the video because what we saw was heartbreaking. And they were not fans of Mr. Mandela over there. And I always thought they were. I always thought Black South Africans, much to my surprise, they were like, oh no, He took care of himself and his family, and that was it. And he got his money, he got his paper. He even married a white woman. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
I did not know that.
How do these white South Africans end up being, quote, the refugees that we're taking in at a time when we're purging our country of so many people and, quote, purifying it? Of course, it's right in the Project 2025 playbook. It's like, I guess, $5,000 for white people to have kids, but now we'll just, we don't like the demographics. Let's import in some white people.
There you go.
Right?
And
They're
we're
gonna,
gonna be
what are they going to do? Park them in swing states or something? I mean, do they already have the exact district where they're going to go, and they're going to fast track them for citizenship? And they're already pre-registered as MAGA Republicans.
Yeah, pick one. Michigan, Wisconsin, what
Yeah. Where do you want to go? Warren, Michigan, or like
Pennsylvania looks real nice about this
I
time
mean,
of year.
look at the absurdity of the day, right? The
Oh.
fake China negotiations, the continued flow of money into Bitcoin, into Trump's pocket, the
Correct.
acceptance by Trump of a gift of a replacement for Air Force One, totally denigrating American manufacturing and deciding not only greed, but also underneath that, like basically an anti-American decision. And yet then we're waving in white people while we kick out brown people. And that was today's activity. And we wonder why it's like you got to follow the money and you got to follow the racism at all times, because it's this intertwined activity of the white supremacy movement. And where's the tipping point for the American people? Is June 14th? It's a month away. Is June 14th going to be the day that we can get millions on the street? Are we?
Let's hope so. It's got to be. So we'll keep an eye on that. Let's get more into this South African refugee. Let's look into the crisis, see what we can find out overnight. And let's check back with our audience tomorrow, see what shake you.
We'll talk about that. God bless them. All right, Mark, always a pleasure.
No doubt, my friend. Glad you're home safe.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you tomorrow.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.